And we are live. Woo!
Mhm.
All right, so welcome to another Believe in Magic Place Q&A. I'll be hosting today. My name is Alex Borton. Today, our guest, the great Jason Palter.
Thank you, Alex.
Hey there,
Both
man.
of you.
How you doing today?
Good, man. How are you?
Not bad. It's a good day. We got a lot to go over today. We got great contests, lots of questions popping up already. While we're starting up here, for the people who don't know you, can you just give them a little bit of background on who you are and maybe how you got to where you are? Where'd you start?
Yeah, for sure. I, like most magicians and most people who do this, got a magic set when I was a kid. I was 9, and I did my first show the next year with $3. I got paid. It was awesome. When I was 10, and that just sort of went from there. And did birthday parties, and then graduated to sort of weddings, bar mitzvahs, christenings, whatever, that sort of market, and then broke into the corporate market later on in teenage years. And yeah, that sort of just progressed from there. So then with the corporate stuff, of course, it's performing. I also use the magic as a sales tool, so I do speaking, team building, that sort of stuff, keynotes. And a number of years ago, a friend of mine had said that you really have to produce tricks. If you've got an idea, you got to market it. So I had this idea for a trick with a blister. Those of you who know my third degree burn. And I just sort of said, what the hey, I'll put it out. Let's see what happens. I thought I'd sell a couple hundred units, and it's been quite the opposite, actually. It's sold thousands and thousands, and it sort of started me on the creation map. So I think I'm up to 11 products now. I can't even remember, just creating. So that's sort of a separate side to the business of what I'm doing. I'm also an actor, and I do voiceover work as well, mostly for commercials and film, that sort of stuff. I don't really do stage acting as much anymore. Most actors will say to you that the recognition you get from an audience applauding and looking at you is incredible. I mean, it feels so good, right? This is what we live for. It's like a drug. And actors will say the same thing, but stage acting doesn't pay you so well. But you get that recognition. The on-camera stuff pays you better, but there's no recognition. You know what I mean? So it's a balance. So I get that recognition, I get that feeling from my live magic performing, and the acting, I don't do the stage that much. So there was that aspect to what I did. And so sort of balancing it, and I'm also a puppeteer. I do hand demos for TV as well. I'm a hypnotist, but I only use it in therapeutic uses, not on stage. I have an office, and I'm involved in the Tenyo Elite project, doing higher end versions of the Tenyo tricks with my partner Steve Brooks from the Magic Cafe, and Peter Loughran, who's also from Canada here. He's with Master of Illusions. And it just sort of goes like that. It's like what Archie Bunker would say, I'm an entrepreneur. So I just sort of do a bunch of stuff. You're a performer. You have to diversify. So yeah, that's sort of where it's at. It's sort of how I do this stuff.
All right. Well, actually, a great lead into Croissant Ludrian, who wants to know who inspired you, if anybody, to actually take on magic.
It's a great question because I think everybody has an inspiration somewhere. My uncle, who bought me my first magic set, that's sort of what the inspiration was. And he's a doctor by trade, but his background is in dance and acting and performing too. So he has that sort of artistic side to him that completely spun off onto me. And watching how he, when I was a little kid, and watching how he would make family members and friends laugh and entertain them, just in simple talks over family dinners, always intrigued me, and I love that. And any performer will tell you that there's some sort of inspiration that brings you in, or a person, or something. So the inspiration for me was him to get me started, because let's face it, if I hadn't got that magic set from him, I probably wouldn't have continued. But also it was just the inspiration for me is the reactions I get from people. I mean, if you're not a performer, you don't get it. People don't understand what it feels like to get that recognition. And I described it once to a couple of magician friends of mine, and they thought I got it bang on. Now, I'm going to describe it to you. I live in Canada, so yes, it's not snowy all the time. A lot of people think that if you've never been to Canada. We get very hot summers here in Toronto. I'm just in a suburb north of Toronto. But in the winter, So you got horrible snow, whatever. Those of you who live in a snowy climate, and so sort of go with me on this. It's, let's say, a Saturday morning. You slept in a little bit, and it's March or April. It's just starting to come into spring. You open up your front door to grab the newspaper, and the sun is shining. It's not hot out, but it's nice. It's not a cold winter's day. And everybody does the exact same thing when we haven't seen the sun in a few months. We close our eyes, and we just sort of do that and let the sun hit our faces, and it's indescribable what that heat, that energy feels like. That's what it's like on stage for me when I'm making people laugh and I'm bringing people in. And I've described that to a couple performers, and they said, bang on, that's exactly what it's like. And you just cannot get enough of that feeling. So that's my other inspiration too, is that when I realized that I was able to sort of engage people, make them laugh, and whatever, I said, I really enjoy that. So that was sort of my two inspirations for doing it. Yeah.
I absolutely agree with you. That's a really spot on. Just being able to stand there and taking that moment in.
Absolutely.
It's absolutely there's something solitary about it that you feel. I mean, it's completely indescribable. You're right. George Klanges.
Yeah.
And I didn't. Hopefully, I didn't butcher that one too bad. Asks, at what point or what caused you to go humorous with your magic, go into comedy style magic?
You know, it's funny. I always have made people laugh, and that sort of just seemed like a natural thing for me to do. Humor is a really interesting thing. Humor, I'm going to say any art, magic, visual arts, music, acting, dance, singing. It is subjective, really subjective. And what's funny to one person, what's a beautiful piece of artwork to another person, what's a wonderful song to another person is not to somebody else. So I tell this to clients when they ask, well, how do shows go and how do you perform? You know, if you're just doing a question stuff with them. And I'll say, look, I can do the exact same show for two completely different audiences and get two completely different reactions. I haven't done anything different. It's something just the way people react. So there's no lonelier feeling in the world than being on stage when nobody's laughing at you, when they should be laughing at you because you said something funny. So I will do some serious stuff in my act, but there's always a comedic, there's always a lighthearted twist to it. I find that that's just what resonates best with me when I perform for people. But you know, if you want to do comedy magic, let's say for instance, and more power to you, do it. But if you find that there is a groove that you have to get in with every audience, that connection with the audience is absolute paramount. Do not embarrass them. Do not make them feel like you are above them, anything like that. It's okay to play with them. It's okay to be a little suggestive, sneakiness to them, that sort of thing. But if you're going to make them laugh, do not ever do it totally at their expense. I do a lot of self-deprecating stuff, but again, it's very gentle. I don't like to go too rough. So for me, it's what worked for me. I just found the comedy worked. I liked that reaction of getting laughs. And you see serious magicians who will invoke completely different reactions from people. They'll move people, or they'll drop their jaws by something so serious, but it's not a comedic thing. Listen, I think we've all seen somebody who claims that they're a comedian or a comedic magician bomb horribly over and over and over again. I don't mean one of those instances where they just, had a bad crowd. I mean they're bombing over and over again. And you shouldn't be doing comedy magic at that point. I think that you just got to sort of pull it back and maybe choose something different. But it's just what worked with me. That's just what I'm able to do. I'm able to make people laugh. Everybody has their skills. One of my skills is I'm very good at improvising and ad-libbing on the spot. It's just what I do. It's just quick like that. And the joke I always say to people is the advantage of my show is that it's not scripted. The disadvantage of my show is that it's not scripted. So it can go either way. Obviously, if I'm doing something for a corporate client where the scripting has to be involved, and absolutely it's scripted, but I'm able to play and read audiences, and it's something that takes a long time. I've been doing this a long time, but I really enjoy the comedy stuff. I think that even if the magic is bombing, you're still hopefully able to engage them and make them laugh. Hopefully, if they're not too quiet. As I said, there's nothing worse than a dead crowd. But I don't know. I just find there's no rhyme or reason what people will laugh to and not laugh at, because it's just how people react sometimes. Anyway, sorry, getting off the topic. That's what inspired me.
No. Absolutely spot on. I mean, everybody has a slightly different sense of humor. I'm of your camp where I'm completely self-deprecating during the entire show. I call
Right.
myself corny trash. I call myself just like a heaping pile of, just all sorts of names. And
Yeah.
it's all it's supposed to be in spite of itself. It's supposed to be horribly sarcastic. That's just the persona that I put off. And that's
Right.
purely because that's what I do in life anyway. I just have an excuse to like unleash that on people unbridled. You know what I'm saying? And
Totally.
laughter has this way of just binding people so instantly and saying
100%.
it's communal. I mean, it's beautiful. Like
It's
you can
also
get somebody on your side so quick. All you have to do is make them smile.
100%, and it's also very healing. If you get a group who, whatever, you're performing for some event where maybe they've just had a bunch of layoffs at their office or something, and they're ready just to have a good time. Obviously, the timing has to be right. You don't want to sort of jump in on them the day they've just been fired and start in with the stuff, but it can also just sort of relax people. The other thing I find, too, is it really breaks the ice if you're able to do it. Some people are not meant to talk. Some people are really fantastic silent performers. And when they start talking, it's like, you know what? Let's just put a piece of duct tape over that, and we'll just stop. Just stop talking. So yeah, but yeah, that's it.
I absolutely agree with that. Absolutely. Danny Horner said you mentioned that you haven't been doing stage in some time. Is that just stage like Broadway, like theater, or is that stage magic? And if so, when was the last time you did a stage show?
That's correct. That would be stage acting. And sorry, I don't know if I was clear on that. So as an actor, you can either do live on stage or you can do in front of the camera. And as I say, the camera does not give you the same sort of feedback that that an audience does. Excuse me, if you're doing a theater show, but there's more money involved, and that's what actors will say. And that isn't for me. It's just that stage acting. There's also a lot of rehearsal involved. If you're getting ready for a play or something, it could be months of rehearsals. And I would like to do that, but I get that rush, I get that reaction from my audiences doing stage magic. And sorry, I didn't mean that to come across that it was only about the money, because it's not. It's just that there's only so many things you can do, right? So to me, I want that reaction. I need that. I like that, and so I do it by the magic. That's where I get it, whether it's close-up magic or stage magic or parlor magic or whatever you want to call it. So.
Well, the way I've always thought about it is kind of, okay, all the successful people I've ever talked to have given me a really good piece of advice, and that is, like, if you go out and do something you hate, or you go out and try to accomplish something you love, you actually have an equal chance at failing. So why focus on the stuff you hate? If you're going to try to make money and try to build yourself, do the stuff you love, and learn how to do it well enough that people would pay you to do that.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, I do charity shows, I do non-paying shows, I do shows, just where I'm showcasing myself for lower amounts. I mean, we do it, and you still get the recognition, but it sure is nice when you're able to purchase food for your children as a result, or someone else's children as a result of working. So it helps. It really does help.
Well, the other side of that, I mean, it's hard mixing being an artist and being a businessman, because the pure point of a business is to make money. There's no other point to a business other than to make money. So when you think about it that way, and art's kind of about, well, it shouldn't be about the money. It should be about, like, how I feel and how they feel and, what's happening in between us. But,
Right.
if you have the money to reach them, then it's all for naught anyway. So it has to be this kind of self-perpetuating thing, at the very least.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's very true. Yeah.
We have Croissant asks, what is
What's the name?
comic magic? Is Croissant Ludrian?
Yeah, yeah. And he asks what?
What is a comic magician?
Somebody's been visiting my website. I wonder who it could be. What is a comic magician? It was a name that I had to say something. It's a separate site that I have for my corporate site. This is a non-corporate site for non-corporate shows, theaters, casinos, resorts, weddings, universities, whatever it happens to be, conventions, right? And I was trying to figure, okay, what's my style? What do I do, and how do I position this? So magician, okay, fine. I'm a comic. I don't do stand-up comedy. but it's not really magic. It's sort of a blend of the two, stand-up comedy magic. So when I looked at what some people say, magician, comedian, comedian, magician, and I realized comic magician was, I don't even, a friend of mine came up with that or something. I'd never even seen that before, and I thought, well, is that grammatically correct? He says he thought it was, and I said, you know what, it's enough to grab people's attention. And I didn't really, what's that?
Grabbed your attention.
Absolutely, and I didn't do too much grammar in university, so it's fine. So I just went and just decided to, the title, Comic Magician, and the slogan I was just using was amusing and amazing. It's, just, I think that's what I have on the back. God, I don't remember what's on the back of my business card. Isn't that sad? So yeah, it just sort of speaks about what I am. I mean, yeah, I'm a magician first. I've been doing this for a long time. But the comedy is a big aspect of it. As you just said, being able to make people laugh or bring them in, engage them in some ways it's huge, and not a lot of people can do that. So yeah, that's sort of where I just came up with the name, and it just it sort of fit. And so keeping congruent with that and keeping consistent with that, all the congruency of my stuff. I mean, you see the photos that are on that page. I mean, they're a little bit off the wall, little zany, and the quotes and the signs that I'm holding in my thing. And again, it's just, I'm a firm believer in being different, and finding that difference may take you years to develop. But even as an actor, I remember many years ago, an acting coach, I was taking it was a voiceover class I was taking for animation, for cartoons, whatever, and she said, they've seen 80 people that day on the audition, or 50 or whatever it is. She goes, they're so bored of seeing the same script. She goes, do something different. Make something up. So I call putting a button on it. So if you're reading a script, if any of you viewers out there or actors or whatever, and you've read a script in audition, it always ends off open. And in theory, if you looked at it, it would look just like threads hanging out. So I always say, let's put a button on it. Let's take those threads and put a button on it and button it down. Whether it's a funny line you give at the end, whether it's something that you improvise at the end, just something different, but at the same time being memorable. So, and as I say, and you find out what that is. I mean, if you're a restaurant magician, and I've been doing restaurant magic since I've been 17. I've been doing it a long time. I have a lot of experience in it. And it's one of the things that, the managers would say. It said, this is what makes us different from the guy or the gal down the street with their restaurant. I said, absolutely, you have to be different. There's so much in our world right now where people are competing in whatever business it is, or just competing for the affections of somebody or whatever. Do something that's different, that makes you you. But I'm a firm believer also in making sure it is you. For me to go out and do illusions with big hair or something, that's just not me. I do illusions, but there's a comic slant to them. So I know that if I'm going to go out on stage and do that sort of very dramatic style, and there's nothing wrong with that, but that's not me. So you find out what's sort of you, and find out what you're going to do that's sort of a little unique and different, and be patient with it. People go through it. I mean, I look at the evolution of my business cards and my promo photos and stuff over the years. Holy crap, I mean, it's evolved. My last major thing was 13 years ago, and I'm in the process right now. Actually, I'm going through a bunch of things in my life right now, personally as well, but business-wise, I'm about to make a major change in it as well, because it's time for either a tweak or an overhaul. And you just sometimes have to be honest and look at yourself and say, okay, it's time to find something else unique, something else different. But it's still going to be me at the core of who I am, but it's just something extra. So, yeah.
Yeah, at some point you have to, if you're getting just the same thing over and over, and just doing the same thing over, and you're not getting anywhere, the only way to move forward many times is to do something, sometimes either just slightly different, or many times completely different right. Direction. Start plowing ahead.
For sure, and it's an interesting thought, because some people say, look at what your competitors are doing, whether you're in magic or business or whatever, and do the exact opposite. And sometimes that really works. Sometimes it can fail. Look at what your competitors are doing and sort of emulate them. But of course, don't copy them. I mean, trust me, you can get away with the copying for a little bit. It will always, always, always catch up with you. And it'll burn you, because it's just not you. I mean, I know what I can do. So I'll look at a routine and I'll say, okay, can I make that me if I'm going to add something to one of my shows? And I'll look at it and say, it's just not me. I can't do it. Or maybe I'll say, but I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to do something that speaks to who I am, and sort of spin it. And again, that's something that comes with experience and age. They say imitation, sincerest form of flattery. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes in our business it can be really upsetting because someone's out there doing your bit, doing your gigs. So anyway, yeah, just trying to find a little bit better how you are and who you are and how you do it.
Right.
A little bit
Right.
different.
No, absolutely. I mean, yourself as a performer is so important. I mean, as magicians, people are paying to see character actors. We're acting the part of magicians. That's what we're doing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that is, it's a lot of magicians want to fool you first and want to entertain you second. And I have never, never believed in that. What I say is you entertain first and foremost. And at the same time, you mystify them, you fool them, you trick them, you do whatever it is that you're going to do. I really believe that people will remember me far more for connecting with my audience, being friendly, being open, entertaining them. They'll remember that much more than tricking them. And the trick and fooling them is important. Listen, that's what we do, right? That's part of what we do, and it is very important. But if you do not connect with your audience, it's horrible. And audiences know they're not stupid, especially in these days with YouTube and the stuff that they see. So it's important to find that balance. And but don't forget to entertain. There's a lot of guys who get into magic and do the most unbelievable knuckle-busting sleight of hand moves. I remember seeing a young magician down at one of our local magic shops about 10, 15 years ago, and he wanted to show me something, and he was doing Gary Kurtz Flurious. I don't know if you're familiar with that with coins. It was phenomenal. This kid, I don't know, he's 16 years old, boom, 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 right in front of me. But he had no sense of timing, no sense of entertaining, no sense of angles. It was just right there for me. What do you think of this? I said, it's great, but it's time to work on the performance now. Because audiences, I always say this, an audience member, remember, they're lay people. They don't know how it's done. So they don't care if the way the card got from the deck of cards into your wallet is from a palming and tenkai palm and all this stuff that you've practiced 8 months to do, boom, to get it in, or if it's a $5 elastic band you bought at the magic store, whip, made it zip in. The audience doesn't care. They just know when from there into your wallet, they're blown away. If you want to do the complicated thing, more power to you, do it. But don't forget to entertain, because the audience doesn't care if you did sleight of hand. They really don't. Lay people, it doesn't matter to them. They are there to be entertained. Entertain, entertain, entertain.
All right. And this topic comes up a lot on the Q&As, and I always have had the same idea. Like, the clip shift. You go through and you can clip shift out a card, and all you're doing is changing a card out at that point. But I've worked years on, I still can't do it, and I try it here and there. Or the muscle pass, another one. They're difficult moves that take out. And at the same time, you could take a little piece of invisible thread and make a coin levitate and produce the same effect. So
listen, muscle pass. Mm-hmm. Sorry, go ahead. I interrupted. Go ahead. Sorry.
No. I was agreeing with you.
Yeah, I mean, listen. The muscle pass is the first time I saw it. I was in Nova Scotia in Eastern Canada, and oh my gosh, I forget what his name was. Nova Scotia magician. It'll come to me. And he did it. And no, it wasn't an arc, but it went boom up. And I remember going, what did he just do? I honestly thought I was looking for George Lucas. I was looking for the special effect. I couldn't. It looked like it was on wires. So I talked to him afterwards. What the hell was that? He goes, it's called a muscle pass. He did it again. I said, it was blown away. Now, it is impressive to the audience, but it's impressive for that second. What are you going to do to entertain them? Now, this performer happened to be extremely entertaining. Had an amazing crowd gathered and was doing it amazingly. But if all he was doing was just that muscle pass and not entertaining them, in my opinion, wouldn't have been a good scene. So, anyway, yeah.
And you have some really strong opinions on how you perform, and I really think that your performance you should have a very strong opinion about how you perform on stage and who you are and what you want to achieve. Like that really forms what you're going to do and how you connect with your audience.
Right.
George wants to know if you've ever used like a stooge and what your opinion is about him.
I have not used a stooge often. I used to do a routine where I did some pre-show work with this, but they weren't a stooge. They had no idea how the trick was done, but I did some pre-show work with them in order to get the effect done, which had to be done. And so I'm just trying to think of other times if I've used a stooge. Uh, for some, yes, for some illusions that I've done, where I will bring someone up on stage and do the illusion on them, cut them in half or whatever. And as far as the audience is concerned, it's somebody from the audience. But for me, obviously, this person knows what they're doing. I don't do it very often, and honestly, you have to find an actor. But somebody who doesn't overact it. Because if it is a stooge and they overact it, trust me, it is so obvious when somebody is trying to pretend that they didn't know you, that they didn't whatever. So I would sometimes do a zigzag woman. So I bring someone up on stage, and I had a couple of friends that I used, and one of them was an actress, the other one wasn't. But they both had this incredible way to just do a very innocent deer caught in the headlights look, where they're just very hesitant, not sure what to do, and just sort of, one of them had these big puppy dog eyes, like a doe would just sort of look at you like, it's like that's what you want. So, I do not remember this, and maybe one of the viewers can, if they know who this was, but somebody once said that if they had 100 audience members, they would put 99 people in on the trick just to fool and absolutely decimate that one person. I've never done that before, but boy, oh boy, would that be fun to do. Because that one person will walk away just, ready to, thinking you're about to start a religion, just, babbling and drooling because they wouldn't be able to believe what you just did. Yeah, so the only stooges I've used that actually were in on it and knew exactly what was done would have been probably for that zigzag. I'm trying to think if there was any other time that I did. I don't think so. It's not very often, but there's nothing wrong with it as long as it's handled properly. You have to think about it. Think like a magician. Magicians think very differently about so many aspects of our lives, so many aspects of how the world works and what we see. So just, if you're going to use a stooge, just make sure you're thinking about how does that appear to the audience? How are you going to get away with it? Are you covering all your angles so that someone afterwards doesn't say, hey, they were blah, blah, whatever. So, but I know the question is, sorry, I'm guessing it was George you said. Is that right who asked that?
It was George.
Sorry, you just flickered there. I didn't hear. Say again.
Yes. Yeah, it was
George. Okay. So what George perhaps was asking also is that because I know there are some, when you're doing a big show in a theater, you want to make sure everything looks really great, especially if you're filming it. And so sometimes you will have pre-picked volunteers. They may not know exactly what they're doing, but they know they're going to come up on stage. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But, it's also a good exercise, a good mental and performance exercise to exercise your muscle to not do that, to actually bring someone up from scratch as you're working things. So I'm guessing, George, if that isn't what you meant, please write in again and just clarify. But I'm guessing that's what he was asking. So.
Yeah. No. There was one, and I think it was Slidini Tissue Vanish, where he sits the one guy down in the chair and takes a piece of tissue and crumples it up and throws it over his head with his hand and does a. Yeah. Everybody else on stage is just dying, laughing, and the one guy's in the chair is just like.
No idea what's going on, right?
Blown.
Yeah.
So you can steer the entire audience, and that's funny.
That is. It's just it's always interesting to see how some performers now get out of that routine because it's got to end somewhere. And you honestly, you want to make. I just believe my philosophy is you want to make sure that person walks away of having fun and not felt like I'm embarrassed now. Like I'm embarrassed. He just embarrassed me in front of 50 or 200 people or whatever. So.
Mm-hmm. Right, and that's kind of hard with that one because it's supposed to show exactly how easy it is to fool people. So you have to you have to form matter around it properly. But it's something that can be navigated with enough charisma. And some people are just such nice people that they can just pull off. Oh, well, it was fun, and that would be it. It's really
absolutely. If it's handled really well and nicely, yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. I've done it before, and it's great. I have on one of my demo videos. I don't even know if it's still up, but the woman it was only the second or third time I did it. She was crying of laughter. She just couldn't hold a straight face because she knew something was going on. She didn't know what her colleagues are killing. It was some corporate event that I did. It was, and of course that gets me laughing. There's a on one of my demos, you and I were talking about it, where I'm doing a card on seat routine, and there was a girl that I had. She was probably about 16, 17 to help me, and she just said something to me really smart alecky, and it made the audience was laughing. I was killing myself, and I like that. I think a lot of performers, magicians, get really afraid to give it up to the audience. Let the the spectator. Let the spectator have a moment to shine. It doesn't mean that you're a bad performer. It doesn't mean that, oh my gosh, he's good, she got a better laugh than he did. It doesn't mean that, and we get our egos in the way. I'm like, just relax about it. So you'll see me. I'm having just as much fun on stage as this person is. And a friend of mine once said that. So like, I just love it. If that person breaks you up, now again, it's obviously you have to do audience management. You don't want them taking over the show or whatever. But if they're playing, I like to play with them. I like to improvise with them. And if they make me laugh, you'll see me in my shows or on that video. Like, I just start laughing. It's like, damn, I hate it when they're funnier than me. You know, it's great. And I just think it's a lot of fun. And I think that I don't know. I think it also endears you to the audience. Don't be fake about it, but I think if you can do it and you're really having a good time with it, I think audience members appreciate that. I really do.
Right. It turns into from your performing a conversation with them, and that's so much more real. It's you're now instead of being a prop, you're now really are a part of this.
Absolutely, 100%.
So you're not afraid to use stooges, if depending on the situation. Is there something in magic that you would change if you could?
Something in my show or in magic overall?
I think in magic in general is the question.
Yeah, I would. It's what a lot. What's that?
I was wondering
So
if
you
I
broke up.
was lagging out, if that was the problem.
Yeah, there was just a little bit of lag, so I didn't see you. I mean, you can hear me okay?
You're good.
But you can hear me all right, right?
Yes.
Yes. And I want to make sure talking doesn't I mean, I'm joking. I was just playing with you there, Alex. That's something fun to do. No, I was doing that on purpose. Okay. Anyway, so oh God, sorry. I should have had more sugar at lunch. All right, so you and I were talking before. I was going to show you this new effect I've come up with called a ball and vase, and you told me that it's already been created, so that was really a piss off. So anyway, so I'll tell you what I'd really like to change in magic, honestly, is a lot of what performers are doing on TV, because I think it's ruining the art. I think it's really deceptive, and what ends up happening is you get people coming to your shows or booking you expecting to see what they saw on camera, and they don't understand why you can't do it. Listen, it's competitive. Television is all about ratings. Ratings equals money, and this is what the networks thrive on, and I get that. And I don't mind when I see a performer on television taking advantage of the angle the camera is seeing or the framing that the camera is seeing. Listen, I've done it before when I've done magic on TV, but to blatantly be using special effects that are reserved for Star Wars and science fiction movies, to be blatantly having not only a stooge, but it's too over the top. I think that what happens is the gain that you're going to get immediately is people freaking out, and you name big and big for magic. But I don't think we're thinking as a community what that's going to do down the road for all of us, including the performers on TV. Because I've heard of some guys on TV who've gone to do live shows, and people are like, yeah, he or she was good, but that's not what I saw on television. Well, I can't do what's on television unless you give me a camera and you give me a few actors to go and gasp and give me some wires or whatever it happens to be. And I'll give you an example of that happened with me. This was a number of years ago. And in Toronto here, there was they were doing a product launch for, it was a liquor. I believe it was Grand Marnier. We'll call it Grand Marnier. I don't remember what it was. So they're doing this new launch and this new big promotional thing for it. And they wanted magic. That was sort of the theme that they wanted. They weren't sure what. So, and I know this, a lot of magicians in the city went out to meet with these people. And unfortunately, like many corporations or companies or people who are not in the know, they have no idea how much this stuff charges. They wanted the world, but they only had whatever, like $1,000 to spend. And what they wanted was ridiculous. They wanted multiple shows at multiple locations over a 2-week period, and customized magic and all this stuff that it was impossible. So we're sitting down. In my particular meeting, I was sitting down and I'm talking to the, I guess it was either the producer or the director of this campaign that they were doing, and he was getting really frustrated. And he kept referencing Chris Angel. He kept referencing Chris Angel, kept referencing Chris Angel. I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to get these sorts of things going on. And I'm like, all right, well, whatever. And I was trying to explain to him the different stuff that we could do, and he was getting so frustrated, and finally just threw a book down on the table. He says, can't you, he was like, he couldn't even get the words out. He says, can't you just have a bunch of people in the bar, at a bar, drinking booze, and then you come in and you snap your fingers, and now they've all got Grand Marnier in their hands? And I smiled at him. I said, you watch Chris Angel and Harry Potter, don't you? He goes, yeah, how'd you know? Well, the problem is that you're watching too much of that stuff on TV, and you think that that's what's possible in real life. And what was crazy is he's a director. He's in the medium. He knows about TV, film, and movies and production and editing. He should know that you can't do this. And anyway, I never booked it, and I don't think they ever ended up going forward with it because, again, you want the world, and you can't have it. One of the things I like to use, just as an aside, is it's a triangle. 3 different points. Good, fast, cheap. Pick 2. You can have a good and fast, but it can't be cheap. You can have a good and cheap, but it won't be fast. It'll take a while to develop, whatever it is. And this guy wanted it good, he wanted it fast, but they had no money. And what his objective was just wasn't going to be able to be met unless he had cameras. I said, look, if you give me a bunch of actors at that bar, I'm going to do stuff that you won't even believe what's going to be able to happen. I will make it look like Harry Potter, and that's what he wanted. But I said, I can't do that live, and you won't be able to find anybody who can do it live with just regular patrons. So I think that, honestly, to me, is one of the biggest damages we are doing to this art. And I've just discussed this with other magicians too, because we all get it. We get calls from clients and say, hey, can you do this thing I saw on TV? No, I can't. I'm sorry, I can't. Oh, then maybe you're not good. Yeah, I am good, but I don't have that budget. I don't have those actors. I don't have those special effects or whatever it is. It's so that, to me, when I think about it, is probably the biggest overall problem. Like, if I could then mention other things that, as a performer, when I go and see other acts that I personally don't like, but overall I think that's the biggest thing. And so those of you out there, including me, who are doing TV things, think about this. Think about the future and what it's doing. And it's okay, as I said, it's okay to bend the truth a little bit. It's okay to just sort of, cameras are really interesting. They're bad because the camera doesn't blink. Like people's eyes, it doesn't blink. So you got to be really careful about what you show. It's okay to use the angles. It's okay to maybe use an actor or a stooge or something. But when you're pushing the envelope and you're making it look like you're a god or like you're Harry Potter, I'm sorry. I just think I just don't like that. And unfortunately, I've spoken to lay people. When you're doing a show or you're at a restaurant performing, and people say, "Hey, what do you think of blah blah blah?" And they're always mentioning someone on TV, and it doesn't matter who it is. And a lot of these lay people have said to me when they watch the stuff on TV, and it doesn't matter who it is, Dynamo, Chris Angel, David Blaine, it doesn't matter who it is, and I'm not picking on any of them because I think they're all great performers. Like I think they're all great performers. I just sometimes think they push the edge too much, push the envelope too much. And these spectators have said to me, it looks fake to me. It's so impossible what they're doing that it makes me think it's fake. So I start thinking, if that's what a layperson is thinking, to these guys on TV, and me included, if whenever I do these things, it's something we have to consider. But as I say, please understand, this is not to put down any of these other performers. I think they're great performers, and the genres and the styles that they do, they really own them. What Chris Angel does with his style, for instance, or Dynamo does, Dave Blaine or Copperfield, they really have these really unique and amazing styles, and they're great to watch. But sometimes I just think that, pull it back a little bit. So, yeah.
Well, to some extent, in their defense, it is fake. I mean, magic. Yeah. But,
Yes.
my thing, like I said earlier, is we are people, we're actors that are portraying magicians. And when you cross over, the beautiful thing about theater is you have this trust that's automatically set. It's me,
Right.
It's you, we're here, this is what's going on. And when you bring a spectator up and this is generally my problem with certain types of stooging. You have this
Yeah.
unspoken feel that like this person is the eyes of the audience, so how they react really just is good. So if you get found out about that, for example, say like, okay, the best trick that can ever be done, ever, is be in one place at 1 second and then another place at another, right? Like just transportation, just instantly from here to there. And that's done like every 30 seconds on the news. So when you talk about camera tricks and things that can be done like that, once you break that trust, you don't have you can't just rebuild that trust with your audience again.
Absolutely.
Camera tricks, when they find you you don't get that back, and there's a lot of guys finding that out right now.
And they're finding out the hard way. They're not. This is what I'm saying. They're not thinking about it ahead of time, and I think it's so paramountly important that they do consider it ahead of time. You know. So.
Right. Hey, so you're. I probably.
Yeah, you were lagging a little bit too. I didn't know if you were asking. Yeah, that's okay. I didn't know if you were asking me another question, so that's why I sort of leaned forward and leaned in.
Right. We're both. So it looks like we're both kind of off sync, but that's nothing we can really do about.
Okay. I'll try and pedal
midway
hard.
Through.
What's that?
Pedal hard. Yeah, the gerbils. Get the gerbils going.
Yeah. Absolutely. I've got a couple of hamsters. It's okay.
Let's go ahead and run the first contest, and then if you want, while I'm trying to deal with that, you were going to try to show something. Is that okay?
Sure. Yeah, for sure. So what's the first contest we're doing?
Okay, so the first contest we're going to do is for third-degree burn. What
Okay.
we'll do, email address is
Can I show it?
Yeah, please do.
Okay. So just this is, I'll just get the angle here. This is the first effect that I came up with. This is called Third Degree Burn. It came out in 2006. It is just as a quick effect of the blister, it is a blister effect that any card named is put on your fingers. Okay, there's no forcing. You don't even need a deck of cards. Name a card, and that card is blistered to your fingers. You don't need. I mean, I carry a lighter when I'm doing it. You don't need a lighter. You don't need to do a flame. I've had people who call and they use light bulbs. One guy, when I first came out with it, had written me and said that he lives, I think it was somewhere very hot, Arizona or something, and he was out performing, and he realized he didn't have a lighter when he was doing it for his buddies, and he went over to one of the street signs. It was on lunch hour at his school, and he touched the street sign because it's going to be hot in the noonday sun, right, and burn the blisters. Other people will touch, their temples when they're doing it. So anyway, so there are other blister effects out there where there's cards that are forced. You can do it that way with this, but what's the point? It's any 50. It's one of any 52 cards. So then what I did is I did a revamp of it 2 years ago called Third Degree Burn 2.0, and it's the same. The gimmick was just slightly enhanced. And I'm going to, if you want, Alex, I can show the two gimmicks afterwards if you want. But the one that we're giving away was the regular Third Degree Burn. I think that was the first for the first contest, right? Oh, you are lagging.
Yep.
Holy smokes.
I know, right? I posted my email, or rather in the thread. So,
yeah.
Again, for anybody else who might not be reading that, that's alex@believeInMagicPlace.com. Start messaging burn to my email, and we'll take like the 9th message, so you have to do it quick. 9th message gets the prize, and we'll announce that at the very end.
Cool.
All right, so
can I win too?
Yes, you can. Start messaging in burn now. I'll wait.
Now, do you say again?
I said, did you want to do while I'm waiting on messages? Do you want to do a demo of some sort?
Sure.
Do a little performance?
I can. First time I've ever done it on this internet show, but and then what I can do afterwards. When I do, I also do lectures. All right, so my latest lecture is called Paltered Reality, because I like to play on my name. The original name was going to be Preachings from the Palter, so I'm just sort of playing with different ideas. I come up with different lectures, and we can talk about Alex. We can talk about lectures afterwards because it was one of the things you and I touched on in our pre-interview that we should talk about. But I always show the gimmick. I really I want people to see what they're getting with this and what's powerful with it. Um, so anyhow, I'll just do it with you. So Alex, hello, so,
Right.
hello, sir. Name a card because there's nobody else in the unless Dave's in the room there. If he wants to name a card out loud, is Dave there?
Oh, Danny.
Danny
Danny.
should be Dave.
Danny. Hey, what's that? It should be David. Danny, name a card. Any card? Any card. Any card. Six of spades. Six of spades.
There's six of spades. Now, is there a reason why Danny wants to use a six of spades, Danny?
No, it's really just a random card. Just a random card, he says.
Random card. Okay. So there's nothing that I said that did an influence that made you say that, right, Danny?
No, nothing at all.
The fact that I'm a Star Wars fan and I maybe have some replicas behind me, it didn't do a Jedi mind trick on you to make you say it or anything, right?
As big a Star Wars fan as I am as well, though you do that.
What did he say? What did he say?
As big of a Star Wars fan as I am, no, you did not.
No, he didn't. Okay, okay, good. You're lagging it. Okay, so cool. So then what I do is I bring... There you are, Danny. So what I do is I bring out a lighter. I'm going to light the lighter, and I want you to visualize your card in that flame, okay? As we go 1, 2, 3, ow, 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 ow. My gosh, can you see this? Now, this is where it gets interesting to bring it up into camera. You see there is a 6. Ow, it hurts. And spades.
Yep. Hey.
Go and get some, again, it works a little better when somebody's here with me. I've actually got a friend who's here with me, but it's not going to work on her. So, but yeah, so that, and were you able to see that in the camera?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So that's third degree burn. There is any card named is blistered. Now, you tell me, can I reveal how it's done? Because I don't mind showing the gimmick for this because I like people to see what they're getting. Or is it not policy?
You're sending. We're all, we should all be magicians here, so that should be fine.
Okay. This is a third degree burn gimmick. I worked on this for 2 years to come up with this. So what you get in this is you're going to get your instructions and this gimmick. This is made of aluminum. It's very strong, but it'll last forever. Now, I'm going to try and go really slowly here because I know this is streaming. So there's two sides. There's a suit side and a value side. This is very James Bondy. And I tell you, Alex, I sell most of these in lectures when I show. I did an experiment. When I show how it's done, people want this. This is what they want to carry in their pocket. It's very strong. You can let your keys bang into it, carry it all day. Basically, you are turning this in your hand to find, and everything is mnemonic on it. So I'll just do this very quickly. On the suit side, diamond is on a point. Why? Because diamonds have a point. Spades are on a flat. You think of a shovel spade that's flat when you dig in the backyard. There's bumps here for the heart. Think of a beating heart. And on the clubs, it's rounded because clubs are rounded on the edges, right? We go over to the number side now. An A is at a point because the top of an A is a point. Sorry, I'm turning the wrong side. 7 is on the flat corner because top of a 7 is flat. 5 little bumps. And 3 is on the round side because you can feel the round of the 3. Now we go to the inner circle, and there's a reason there's an inner circle. And by the way, the 6 can be used as a 9 as well. You just have to turn, when you're revealing it, you actually turn your hand upside down to show it's a 9 instead. So on the middle one, we start with the 10. The 10 is on the point. I've got nothing made up for that, so you got to make up your own. The jack is on the round because the bottom of a J is round. The queen is on the, sorry, where am I? I'm upside down here, sorry. The queen is on the bumps because a queen is a circle with a little hook sticking out of it, and it's got little bumps on it, so think of these as little hooks. And the K, the king, is on the flat side. So you think of the side of a K as flat. So there's an inner circle and an outer circle, and the reason for this, and this is part of the development of this trick that I went through, originally this was 2 gimmicks, and I brought it into 1. So basically, in my pocket, if I feel flat, I know that I'm on the suits. If I feel a bump, I know that I'm on the value side. So someone says, whatever, 5 of hearts. Well, hearts I know are bumpy. Hearts bumper. So what I'm doing is in my pocket, I'm turning this around and I'm finding the hearts. Okay, I'm going to keep my first finger there. Now a 5 also happens to be bumps, so I turn that around to find the bumps. Again, I'm just running through this very quickly. You turn it sideways and you press. Now this is aluminum. They have been cut in, the pieces have been cut into the aluminum with a CNC machine. So what happens now is it actually looks like a blister is left on your finger. There's the hearts. There's the 5. Well, it's, yeah, still looking like a bit of a 6 from the last time that I just did it. And that's it. That's why the numbers are backwards. If you see them here, like the the reason is because you have to be able to. Oh, actually, no, it's backwards to me. I just realized it's not backwards on camera. It's backwards to me because once it impresses on your fingers, then it's then you obviously get the right side impression. Now the difference with the third degree burn 2.0 gimmick, because on my website, poltergeist.com, I have the third degree burns on a special because they've been discontinued, so get them while they're hot. The only difference with the 2.0 gimmick is here. Oh, it's in stealth black. Can I have the opera? Ah, okay. So with this one here, so I didn't really need a light. Okay, so this one, I don't know if you can see, it's been anodized in black. It's the same things you see on the side here. And on the back, sorry, on this side it's the same, so it's black. There is an extra hole right here to do the Jack Tiller blister effect, which is the original blister effect, which you can read about in Tarbell. And for the even numbers, instead of just sliding along, let's say you had to go to 4. Well, 3 is on the round, 5 little bumps, you know you're going to slide to the 4. Each of the even ones now have a little notch. I don't know if, can you see that, Alex?
Tilted a little.
Okay, hang on. Let me just try. Here.
Oh, I see it. Yeah.
There's a different notch for each one, so it's easier to slide your finger to find it, and there's extra bonus routines. That's the only difference. But the gimmick works, functionally it works exactly the same. It's in fact the exact same size as the original. It's just that the original third degree burn has been discontinued, and this was sort of the revamp that I did a couple years ago. I have another blister effect with mentalism symbols called Psionic, and that just uses ESP symbols.
Okay.
The ESP symbols, but that's different. But yeah, so that's what we're giving away today at Crazy Jason's. We're just giving it away, right, Alex?
Just giving it away. Just left and right, like on a street corner.
Yep. Do we have a winner yet?
We got people messaging in. Up, there we go. 1, 2, 3. Somebody's just started messaging me numbers. There we go. Yeah, there we go. That's it.
Who was it?
Right. George.
The same George.
George Vikings. He got number 9.
That's great. No, was that the same George, the same gentleman that was asking the questions before?
Yes, sir.
So you're lagging there, Alex. Say again.
Yes.
Yes. Same guy. Awesome. And where's George from?
That's a good question. Let's find out. George, where are you
it's
from?
It's my neighbor, George. No, it's
I am not. It looks like, though, German.
Germany. Wow,
it's very possibly Germany.
Cool.
But I'm not sure. Hopefully he'll post here shortly as to whereabouts he's from. But congratulations, George.
That's great. From Germany. Awesome.
Laura real quick asks, is that Doug Henning up there?
That is Doug Henning up there. That is Doug Henning. That is Doug Henning. In 1985, Doug Henning came to perform in what was Toronto's O'Keefe Centre. I think it's now called the Sony Performance. I don't even know what it's called now. Sony Center. So it's he was there, and I saw him perform, and that's the original poster I got from it, and I had it framed a few years after that. So yeah, it's a good poster. Him and Debbie. Mm-hmm. Got more hair than me. Drives me nuts.
George says he's from Berlin, Germany. He's from Berlin.
From Berlin. Very good. Excellent. So yeah, just make sure he forwards you the address so that I can ship this out to him.
Absolutely. So hear that, George, forward me over the address, and we'll get it over to Jason.
Awesome.
Would you like to go back into questions, sir? Or unless you want to show us stuff. I mean, I always enjoy watching. You know, that sounds weirder than it is.
I didn't hear what you said. It lagged again. What did you say?
I was being horribly suggestive. It's okay.
Dude, my rule's dinner and drinks first. What did you say?
Oh, I said, what did I say?
You want to see the Golden Vegas again, right? That's what it is.
That's what it is. Yes, that's what I wanted to say. I wanted to see that one again. That one amazed me.
What can I do?
All right. Let's see here. Let's find some more questions because I had not had this up. Hey, so do you have any tricks that like you carry on you for like that you just always have on you, ready to do?
Any of my tricks or
Like
tricks in general?
just tricks in general.
Tricks in general,
It was a
I almost always have a third-degree burn on me because it's
mm,
easy to carry in your pocket and it's literally indestructible. It's just easy to carry around coins, keys, whatever can bang into it. And those people who are worried that it gets scratched, yeah, probably will get scratched, but who cares? Nobody sees it. It's sitting in your pocket the whole time, right? It's not like you have to bring it out to show people. I always will have coins on me, and usually a deck of cards. That's about it. I mean, if I know that I'm going to a friend's house, like a party or a 40th birthday on January 3rd or something like that, whatever, then what I would do is I would bring, like, I'd maybe have some extra stuff. I love, one of my favorite tricks to do has always been the Professor's Nightmare. I do it on both stage and close-up, and I'm almost always will have that in my jacket pocket or something like that. Those are usually the ones I carry around, just some small stuff to carry around. Difficult to carry around a cabinet of Proteus, but just unless sorry, that's a big illusion trick. Sorry, just
just take a TARDIS with you. You'll be all right.
TARDIS. Doctor Who fan for sure. I've got my sonic screwdrivers right here. Those of you Doctor Who fans out there, and yes, I'm a geek. They probably all now don't want to ask any questions because they're afraid.
Well, actually, the next question's a pirate question, so it's that's all. That's all.
Pirate question?
A pirate question, yes. Well, okay. Here's the thing. You talked earlier about.
What's a
I don't
pirate?
know. I'm gonna make you for it. You show you like to show your gimmicks, right? You like to show stuff off so people know what they're getting. How do you feel about pirates?
Pirating the magic. I understand now. I was gonna pull out a peg leg, put on a cross. Arr, there, Billy. So I didn't know what you wanted to do.
Well, that's what
That's what? You're lagging. Say again. You're lagging. I didn't hear you.
I was agreeing.
You're agreeing with me. Okay. So I see. Okay. So sorry. Can you hear me? Okay. Are we back on?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So pirating. I'm obviously as a creator, I'm really against it. It's really frustrating when it's really amazing when you meet people who've never created a magic trick in their life.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. And I don't mean something they do in their show. I mean something they're marketing. The amount of money that I put in to create a product, listen, sometimes I get off easy, it's not that much, but it can be more money than you can even imagine. The time, the blood, the sweat, the tears, the research to make sure I'm not ripping off someone else's idea that's already been done. Remind me afterwards, I'll tell you a story about the space between, my measuring tape trick that I did, and how I almost thought I was pirating somebody else by accident. But the problem is that, yeah, pirating people who create magic will tell you that it's horrible, and I try to price my products in such a way that if they are they won't be pirated, because pirates will look at it, see the difference in price, and they'll just say, it's not worth it to do. Thank goodness, knock on wood, that I'm not aware of, I have not had this pirated since 2006. I've had cheap imitations come out made of plastic, and they're shite. I mean, they're crap. No one would ever use them. But no one's actually gone and actually ripped it off. The pirating's horrible, but the amount of time and money that you come up with, and more to the point, which people don't understand, the guts, the absolute guts that you have to approach the magic community and say hi. Would you buy this is my King's Cross, and I'm just throwing up different products. Would you spend your hard-earned money on my product versus going and feeding your kids, or versus going and buying a new pair of shoes? That takes a lot of guts to do, to put yourself out there, open for huge criticism, hopefully the trick does well. So for someone just to take that idea and rip it off, it's brutal. They haven't done anything. They haven't done any work, and it's really cowardly. And unfortunately, in the days of the way the internet is now, you can do anything you want. Sitting behind the keyboard in mama's house and just writing whatever you want online. Nobody knows who you are. You can make these horrible remarks and these horrible things to people. My God, like magicians are so unsupportive of each other. And you read stuff on the forums of how people just slag each other. It's terrible, terrible energy and terrible things to say to people, and they don't even know what they're talking about. They've never had a creative thought in their mind, these people. It's not even like they're educated, and it's not like they're giving constructive criticism. They're just slagging people. And the same with the pirates. It's just you're pirating off the stuff and you're ripping it off. So yeah, that's I'm really against it, and it's very, very frustrating, and I'm not the only creator who says this when we find out that something's been ripped off or somebody's stolen our idea. That's why if I have a new idea, I do not tell a lot of people about it. I don't even tell my friends who are lay people about it. And it's not because I don't trust my friends. But if you're familiar with the term 6 degrees of separation, somebody knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who will know somebody who's a magician. And if, let's say, I have this new idea called the elephant trick, and I'm talking to my buddy Biff. That's not his name, but let's say his name is Biff. And I'm talking to Biff, and I say, look, I've got this idea with an elephant, and it's going to do blah, 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 blah. And Biff says, that sounds really cool. 2 weeks later, he's at a party talking to his friend, I don't know, Belinda. And he's talking to Belinda, and he says to Belinda something about this idea of, oh my God, you just saw that show on elephants? That's amazing. I love that show on elephants. My friend has this idea about an elephant magic trick. He says, you know, a magician, that's weird. Now it passes on to somebody else. And someone else is talking to a guy named, I don't know, Lionel. And so he's sitting there, so Belinda's talking to Lionel now and says, oh my God, like, what I'm saying is it eventually gets to a magician, but they don't even know where it originally came from. And that magician goes, oh my God, I could do that. I could market that. And suddenly now they go out and they market it. Now here's the original guy, me, this idea of the elephant. I'm ready to go. And all of a sudden I see advertised on a magic site say, there's a brand new trick out about the elephant. That was my idea. And it just got out. So that I wouldn't consider pirating. I wouldn't consider that stealing, but we're all about secrets. We have to be careful about what we say. So, yeah. I don't like pirating.
In this day and age, with how connected we are, it's hard to have. I mean, it's hard enough to research to make sure you're being original.
Yes.
Like I'm working on something, just a small sleight of hand project right now, and just each and every small thing you have to talk to so many people and read all sorts of books and just chase information out, and it's so hard, and people just don't realize sometimes how much time and effort you have to put into something as simple as a single move, a small sleight, or like a small gimmick. I mean, that's two pieces of metal that big, you know, and that I'm sure took forever just to get from a drawing board into people's hands.
Crazy. And almost before it was released, as I said, there was 2 gimmicks. This gimmick they were both about a quarter or a half inch smaller. This gimmick was for all the numbers from, I think it was ace, I have to remember, ace to 9, and this was for all the higher court, and they were both the exact same. They both had suits, so you didn't have an inner circle and an outer circle, and so you'd have them both in pockets and 2 lighters, and depending on which card they named, depend on where you go in your hand to do it. And so then it became developed into this single gimmick. Which is a little bit, it is larger, but it allows everything all in one thing on your pocket. And it had to be larger because when you're pressing your thumb or your finger in, I have a friend of mine who has very large paws, and I had to make sure that when he's pushing down on it, that his flesh didn't spill over to the other one, so I actually used his hand for measurements. My hands are medium size, so you know, stuff like that you have to be careful of. But what I was saying, I just wrote it down about the space between is a measuring tape trick. And I developed this. I was approached by somebody to do this idea and take it and sort of market it and go the way that I did with it. And I was really close to getting it out. And I was speaking to, it was Richard Sanders. So if you guys know Richard Sanders from Montreal, and Rich and I were speaking about it. I'm telling him about this idea. He goes, you know, that sounds really familiar. I said, you've got to be kidding me. He says, I don't know why. It sounds familiar. I said, oh, okay, talk to me. What? And he told me to call Bill Abbott, who lives in Toronto as well. And I said, oh, you know what? I'll call Bill. So I called Bill. I said, okay, I was speaking to Rich. And Rich said this, and I described the trick to him. And Bill says, oh, yeah, Joshua J. has something like that. I'm like, oh, crap. So I called up Joshua, and I'd never met Joshua before. Great guy. And I called him. I said, look, this is who I am. And he had heard of me because of some of my other stuff. And I described to him what the gimmick was and how it worked. And he described to me what his is. And I believe it's from one of his lecture notes. And he says, don't worry, it's different enough. Thank you for calling. And I mentioned him in the instructions on it, just to give, make sure I give tribute to him as well. But it's stuff like that. It's so important to do the research. I mean, I would have been absolutely mortified if I released that, and it was something that somebody else had done. It's terrible. Or in the case of my trick called Twist Tie was originally called Tie One On. And Tie One On was the working name. I had the artwork done and everything. And about 4 weeks before I was going to print with the DVDs and all that, somebody had told me that there's already a trick called Tie One On, and it was a tie that actually is a gag and it rolls up like a measuring tape. And so I had to change the name. Now, it's a completely different trick. There's not a problem because twist tie is a completely different trick. But had I released that, I believe it's really important in your branding and in your marketing. What you do is you do not cause confusion. If you have brand confusion in your consumer's mind, anyone will tell you you're screwed. So somebody calls and says, "Yeah, I want Tie One On." Well, which one is it? Which trick is it that you want? They're not sure which one they're getting, and anyhow, so it's impossible almost to come up with a completely original name, but you hope that you can, and hope that, so that's what I'm saying. If you are coming up with a trick, make sure you research it. Make sure you know that no one's done it before, nobody has that name or anything like that. You have another question?
Absolutely. Yeah. Rolling right off of that, you work. I know you're doing the elite program. You also have released some other stuff. Is there a magician out that you'd like?
So you were lagging. Did you say, is there a magician that I have not collaborated with that I'd like to?
You get what I'm saying? Yeah, is there another artist out there, just another artist, another magician that you maybe have wanted to collaborate on stage?
Yeah. Yeah, Harry Houdini. So sorry.
That's what your chart is.
Yeah, I should go back there. There's not anyone in particular. I mean, my tricks are a combination of me coming up with the idea. Some people approach me with an idea, and then I take it from there. And other tricks where I actually will. I have a line called I call it my signature series. It's Jason Palter Presents. So one of them, the first one I came out with was the red carpet. And that one is from Ari Soroka. Ari had this idea that he had been doing long before I knew him, and I took that original idea and changed it and modified it to what it was, but the way that we had worked out our deal was it was going to be Jason Palter Presents, Ari Soroka's The Red Carpet. The other signature one that I have here is the one I just actually flashed up before, which is called King's Crossing. So I have Jason Palter Presents Nicolas Gignac's King's Crossing, and that came about that I was doing a lecture in Quebec, in Quebec City, here in Canada, and Nicolas was actually hosting it, and afterwards, everyone went out for coffee, and he had this idea. He says, "I have this idea, I'd like to market it." I said, "So, what are you waiting for?" He says, "Well, nobody knows me, people know you, would you do this trick for me?" And he showed me the trick, and he completely fooled me. I had absolutely no idea how it's done, and every magician I've shown it to doesn't know how it's done either, didn't know how it was done either, so that was the thing. I sort of went from there, so I mean, there's no one in particular I'd exactly like to collaborate with. I mean, I'm very blessed and very fortunate that I know since I've been creating, I get to meet a lot of other magicians around the world and some bigger names in creation. So I will sometimes bounce ideas off of them. But I mean, it's I'm just trying to think of other guys that I know. I mean, no one specifically comes to mind, but I'm always open to it. I'm always open to doing an idea, whether it's a joint name on it or whether it's my name on it or whatever. I mean, I get approached by people who want me to market their ideas, and it's no insult if it doesn't fit my style or my brand, I think, or I think it's already been done. Or you also have to think about the viability of how it's going to be marketed, and are people going to buy it? Some guys have come to me with these fantastic ideas, but there's no gimmick for it. It's an amazing routine with a deck of cards or coins or whatever, but it's all sleight of hand. And the problem is that there's no gimmick. And the problem is putting out just a DVD is, unfortunately, it gets pirated. It gets ripped off very quickly. But if you have a gimmick, that's why, like with Third Degree Burn, yeah, go out and make one of those for $75. I don't think you're going to be able to do it. So it's all, it can make it a little bit difficult if the stuff, if you have sort of a gimmick or something that comes with it can't be easily replicated. So it's a good question. I don't know. I'd have to think about that. The Tenue Elite thing is I do collaborate with Peter Loughran and with Steve Brooks as well on that. And obviously, we work very closely with Tenue on that stuff. And actually, we just released one of our items, and it's sold out very, very quickly. I'm not going to do it here because it's very difficult to do on camera, but I actually have one of the production pieces here, and I mean, you cannot appreciate how beautiful this looks and feels out of wood. Beautiful. This is called Ultra Tube. Those of you who know it, in plastic. The gimmick is so well hidden in this, and again, you can't really see the finish on this. It's just beautiful. It just looks great. So yeah.
Sorry, I dropped out there for a little while, so I just back on. So I missed.
Sorry, do we have to start again with how I got into
that,
magic? Do we have to start all over again with how I got into magic? Okay, so
yes,
do we have to start all over again with how I got into magic from an hour ago?
Okay. All right, so I'm back up, back. Oh, Laura wants to know, is back to Doug Henning real quick. Is that a poster autograph?
No, it's not. That would have been great. I was, 15, whenever when I saw him, and I should have had it autographed. And if I do, I'll make sure I'll change my locks, because I'm sure Laura would want to come and steal it or something. So, it's,
Wouldn't we Dave, about your
you're breaking up. You're breaking up again, sorry.
Where does that... I talked a lot about your creation.
Yeah.
Today. Where does that creative process come about for you? What's your finish on that?
There's not an exact rhyme or reason in the way that it works. It's all different. My second trick that I came out with, Divine Time, and nobody believes me on this, excuse me, I swear, I dreamt it. I dreamt the trick. And I woke up at 3 in the morning, and I grabbed a piece of paper beside my bed, and I wrote it down. And I said, okay, don't forget the rest, don't forget the rest, and went back to sleep. And I woke up in the morning, and magicians will say, well, we'll have dreams about tricks, and we wake up and go, well, that's stupid, that would never work. But in my dream, I was amazed. But this actually worked, and so I developed from there. Some of them, as I say, is people spark the idea within me by saying, how about this? How about that? Would you be able to do this? I have this new idea for you that I'd like to do, or you can market it for me. In the case of my latest trick called Turn, which is starting to ship next week. Here's the prototype in the boxes for it. That one was... It was sparked because of a different lock trick that I was doing, and I wanted to take it the step further. Third Degree Burn, the inspiration of that was the old thing of you walk up the card indexing system, where you walk up to somebody at a party and say, name a card, and they say, whatever, 5 of hearts. They reach into your pocket, and you pull out that card. It's the only card that you're holding. But I wanted to do it where it was blistered. Twist tie came from because every magician has a cheesy polyester tie with a bunch of cards on it that says, hi, I'm a frickin' magician, right? And I didn't want that, okay? So I wanted a tie that could still do a trick, but looked very elegant and all that. So I have, I can show it to you here. I have it in the wrapping. So I wanted to have a tie like that. So this has, so it's a pattern that's done on it, and but there is a card that's on it. This is part of the routine. This is what you do with that. So there's a bunch of inspiration. Sometimes inspiration can come when walking down the aisle at Walmart or Costco or Home Depot, and you see a pipe fitting at Home Depot or a hardware store. You see something else, and it just looks, it just makes you sort of think about something to do it. So I don't know. It's just a variety of ways that you can do these things, and that you come up with this stuff. As I said, but there's no exact reason. But the idea is to be creative. I had a bit of a creative drought for the past couple of years in my life because I was just dealing with some personal issues in my life, and that was very frustrating because as a creative person, and you as a performer understand this, Alex, you want to be creative and you can't find this stuff. You can't sort of expand to... Your brain just sort of goes to mush and doesn't start working. And so you just sort of have to wait for it to come back. The inspiration comes back. I encourage people, this is something that in one of the marketing courses I took in university, to do other things other than work. This marketer, he was, I think he was a creative director at an ad agency. And he said, you know, it's really important. He says his boss, every week they are told half a day of the week to take off and go see a movie or play, just to put back in, because you're putting so much out as you're writing. So for me, it's not only getting out and exercising and taking a walk and doing that stuff, but the other stuff is also, you know, making sure that you are seeing movies, watching TV, reading, you know, just because it throws ideas at you, and this stuff works into the brain in really odd ways. So that's and obviously, if you're going through personal issues or whatever, sometimes, yeah, it just dries up and you just have to wait for it to come back. So, sorry, I sort of was bouncing around there, but there is a variety of ways of doing it. But it's just, once you get the idea, if you have a few trusted magicians, you have to talk to them about it and say, what do you think about this? Do you think it's going to work? And then ask some lay people. If I was to do this with a deck of cards, or take a lamp, or do something like this, what would you think about that? Would that impact you? And you got to go build a prototype. You got to figure out how it's going to work. Anybody can come up with an idea to make a trick work, but to actually go and build it or create a prototype, I mean, it's a big step. It's usually from the moment of conception for me to the moment of actually doing it. It's usually about 8 months to a year, sometimes longer. Sometimes, if I'm fortunate, it can be done a lot shorter. But it does take time. It does take time for sure. So.
Did you?
Yeah. I was just going to say also, as I mentioned as well, I lecture, and so the other thing is really interesting is that you're with in lectures. I find that a lot of the people attending are amateur magicians. They're not pros. Some of these guys have amazing ideas. And they will sometimes spark ideas with me and say, listen, I thought of this, Jason, would you like, whatever, just what do you think about doing this? And maybe there's something in there, a kernel of doing something with a deck of cards that brings me to a routine a few years later or whatever. I mean, I don't mean that I rip it off. I'm just saying that something they may say may spark something, So, yeah. Sorry, I interrupted you, Alex. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was going to ask, so did you, when you create...
Sorry, you're lagging, man. Totally lagging. Can't hear a thing you're saying.
What I was saying was, when you started creating, I know you said earlier that you were given advice to market. When you start now, do you create things specifically things that you just want to see yourself do? How does that work for you?
It's both. Sometimes I create an idea that I want to do in my show because I know it's going to fit my style. And there's other times where I'm actually doing it and say, I just want to market this. Obviously, I'm going to perform it in my show, but I want to market it. It can go both ways. Because I've started creating now and I've got more and more products out, there's a lot more thought process of not just for my show, but actually what would other performers like? What would they actually do? Because let's face it, I mean, it is a business, right? So, but it's always tested by me. It's obviously worked on, and I work on the routines and all that. It's not that I just release something without trying it and just say, here, try this. I mean, the other thing is, too, is because my background is as an actor and as a performer. Most creators and most lecturers are not performers. And that's the truth. I mean, that's not what they do a lot. And my background is in performing. I'm a performer at heart. So much of my stuff and the way that I approach these things is from a performing background. So all of my effects come with full routines, full scripting, blocking, the stuff that I've really thought about. Obviously, you have to make it your own. You have to develop something your own. But so much of it comes like that, and I think that's really important. So my lecture, my stuff doesn't always fool all magicians, and I say this in one of my for my lecture, one of my bios on my lecture. It says, it's not necessarily meant to fool magicians, because for me, that's not who pays my bills. That's not what I need to do. So what I have to do is I want to fool my lay people. I want to entertain my lay people. So most of my lectures are not about knuckle-busting moves. Yes, we are magicians. We love toys. We love the tricks, absolutely. In my lectures, and when I'm talking about this stuff, there's definitely the tricks. But I'm amazed at how often people just start asking me questions about staging, about the business of magic, about restaurant magic, about how to create, how to develop a personality on stage, all these sorts of things, similar to what you're asking me too, because I'm a performer. So that is a big, big thrust of my stuff, whether I'm developing a new routine for me or I'm creating a routine to be sold. It's a big thrust is making sure that it's performable. That it's not just that it's actually a piece. It's actually a performance piece.
Right. You test drive them. That's important. They need to be performance ready.
Absolutely.
So many things come out, and you start watching the demo. And, you know, most of the time when I buy things anymore, I have an idea of what I'm going to use it for and kind of how it works anyway. So, like, I already got all that. And, like, I watched the instructional DVD for, like, specifics and inspiration. They've had more time with it. I want to see what they know first. And then I'm still
Right.
probably what I want to do with it. They're just going to help me on that. I find that you can really tell who's not performing these things when you start watching the whole thing and going, well, I mean, it's only works from this one angle. Like, if you're here, you're not going to see it, but anywhere else, you're going to catch exactly what's going on. You know, things like that, or when they're teaching it and or fumbling while they're teaching, it just says that you haven't done that enough. And I can't stand that. When you haven't done it enough to be able to teach it, then you probably shouldn't be doing it.
That's so funny. It's true. It's bloody well true. I mean, I tell you, when I'm like, I was even doing when I was showing our viewers and you the gimmick for the third degree burn. Sometimes it's tough if you're camera just to make sure you're showing it. That's one thing. But you're right. If they're fumbling and they can't do it well, pretend that I actually did do the sleight of hand there. I mean, I don't think so, right? It's it's so true. Very, very true.
So you get some of that, but absolutely, and that's I like having something that if I want to out of the box, I can go through, learn the routine, and I can go out and use that routine and get a great reaction. You still have to put, like you said earlier. I mean, you put a performance piece together, but so many people have played Romeo and Juliet. So many different people have played all these great characters. It's not about the character anymore. It's about who plays them and how they portray that character. So
Absolutely. I mean, and making it your own. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's true. That's all I'm going to say. Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. So, yeah. What's that? Go ahead. Sorry. Was there something else?
Well, we're heading close to the end, and I wanted to give you a chance to, because I know Turn's coming out, I wanted to give you a chance to, before we ask our last question, to kind of, plug Turn, and maybe if you have lectures or anything else coming out that you have set down, to go ahead and do that now, if that's okay.
Fantastic, for sure. The person who wins this, you're getting the last one. My pre-orders have been ridiculous. I've sold out. This is the last one, and I can't take any more. I'm doing another production run like almost immediately, but when these start shipping, those of you who pre-ordered and those of you who are getting it from the shops, because I've also had obviously pre-orders from shops, you'll be getting them all first. I've been blown away. I've been very thrilled and very flattered of how well this is done. So this is Turn. As I bring this up to the screen here, I'm also very excited as well because, as I said, there's been a bit of a change in my life, and this has sort of been the first creative, I'm going to say the first creative thought that I've had, but it's sort of like this is the first one to come out. So this is called Turn, and it stands for the ultimate random number. What you get with Turn is an instructional DVD, which has some bonus ideas, and you get the lock. And there's two new bonus ideas that I've since come up with. One of them I did on my 7-year-old daughter. I didn't think this trick could be performed on children, and I blew her away. It was the simplest presentation that I did with her, and her jaw just was just drawn. You could have driven a freight train sideways through it. She just couldn't believe how I did it. And I'm going, this is a mentalism trick. This is a stage or close-up trick. This will be very difficult to do without an audience member here, but I'll run you through it. These are master combination locks. Okay, these are sometimes they come in a couple of different varieties. One is with the numbers that obviously spin around, and the other one is with letters, so that you can actually spell out a name, like whatever it is, and that's how you're going to memorize it. I've seen these at hardware stores, Walmart. They're not as common as the Dudley combination locks that we use here in North America for our school lockers. Those are everywhere. I don't know if they have those overseas, but these are actually quite common. I've been surprised at the different places that I've seen them. So essentially what this is it's an adjustable combination lock. And what happens is that you can take the lock, you can do it here, set up, you open it up, and this end cap comes off, and all these little dials come off, so you can adjust it to any 4-digit combination you want. And that's the beauty of this lock. So you can set your own. You buy it, set your own combination, one of 10,000 different combinations, and that's how you do it when you're using it at home or to lock your gate or your locker at school or whatever it is. So the trick with this is that you can either have it preset, or you bring someone up on, you bring it out, and then you, in front of the audience, show them how you're going to set it. Now, you can do this on stage, you can do this close-up, you can carry this in your pocket or have it hanging from your belt loop. So what happens is you then, so what I like to do, I do it two ways. I either have it preset or I set it in front of the audience. Either way, you close it up and you scramble up the numbers. So I'm just giving you a very quick, basic presentation of it here. You bring someone randomly up from the audience, and you say, you give them the lock. You say, here, try out a combination. They can try out as many different combinations as they want. It won't open. It's locked. It's locked. You can have someone else in the audience try it. It doesn't lock. So one of the things I'm doing now with it is I actually have the spectator take it and put it off to the side, put it on a stool or a table, just where everybody can see it, and you leave it alone. So now you get to play. You say, look, that lock has already been preset. Or what you could say to the audience, this is something else I did last week when I did a show. I just decided to throw this out. I said, I set the combination on this lock a few weeks ago, and I can't remember what it is, and I can't open it. And I want to try. I feel a really good connection with this audience. You guys have been awesome, and I want to see what our energy is like. So you do the same thing. So it's set off to the side. Have the spectator point to 4 people in the audience they don't know. Or you can walk out to the audience with them, whatever it is. So they point to 4 different people, and each person is to tell you a number between 0 and 9. Now, what's really important about turn, there's no forces, there's no pumping, there's no stooges. Any 4 numbers that are said, so let's say it's 3, 4, 7, 9, okay? So those numbers are all named. So you write them down, let's say, on little cue cards. Actually, I've got a cue card right here. So let's say you write it down on these, okay? So you write 4 of them down. And you say to the spectator, 4, 6, 7, 9. Let's say those are the numbers. Say, do you want to switch the order? And that's a neat little touch as well. So they can now switch the orders of the numbers. So whatever it ends up being. You now have them go over to that stool, pick up the lock, and dial in the combination, the 4-digit combination. Now, and have them hold it so everyone can see and say, no, look, I haven't gone anywhere near that lock. You were holding it the entire time while you were turning those numbers. Any 4 digits could have been named. There's 10,000 different combinations. Everyone have a listen, and they pull up on it and click, it opens. There's, as I say, any 4 numbers will work. And so that's turn. It stands for the ultimate random number. And I'm very proud of it, and I'm really happy with how myself and my manufacturer came up, and sort of made this work. There's only one prototype. That's the one that we see right here. I had a colleague of mine, a Toronto magician, asked to borrow it from me 2 weeks ago. And of course, I'm good friends with him. I said, of course. He had 2 banquets to do that weekend. So he brought it back to me. I said, so, it's sort of an ego thing. It's like, was it okay? How did it work? He said, honestly. I said, honestly. He said, Jason, it was the highlight of both of my shows. I want one as soon as it's out. Let me know. So he's on, so he's buying one for me. So, and it just worked. It worked great. So that's turn, and as part of this promotion here, and part of you guys, I'm so happy to be here, and thank you so much for having me on the program. I want to give one of these away. It's a brand new trick. It's $195 US value, and I'm going to ship it off to you. So whoever is the winner, and Alex, you're going to explain how they get to win this. Yeah, that's that. So and in terms of anything coming up, I do not have any lectures coming up right now. If there's anyone out there who's listening or watching, wants to book me for a lecture, you can find my name, hit me on Facebook, or come over to my website, give me a call, give me an email. I'm doing lectures. Obviously, I do conventions with a booth where I'm either performing, in the show, or have my products in the booth. I just haven't in a couple of years, just because of, as I say, stuff that's been going on in my life. But I'm back, baby, and we're going to start again. Sorry, Alex, you were supposed to do the dance music at that point. Don't make me do my own sound effects. Yeah.
No.
That's right. Right. Good.
Or that was porn music, not stripper music. I apologize.
Oh crap! All right, there goes that idea. Yeah.
All right. So, real quick for your contest there, because it's such a high-priced item, and you're being so gracious as to give one away, we're gonna make it a little bit harder. On Jason's merchant site, the product site, you need to send me what is his most expensive trick, and from his jasonpalter.com, You need to give me a list of 5 items, and there is a list of probably about 10 of them, but 5 items, and they are places in which Jason will perform. And tell you what, give me 5 items that Jason will perform, and make one of them up.
You got to send me that list. I want to hear what people say.
Absolutely. So, and keep in mind they'll be forwarded over to Jason. Uh, so send those to me. Go ahead, and we will announce the winner. You said they're coming out on Tuesday?
They are shipping Wednesday. Yep. This is the other thing too. As a creator, you're worried if it doesn't get out on time. But I said these will be shipping mid-October, and they're shipping exactly in mid-October. I'm really pleased about that. Yep. So they will be shipping Wednesday.
In that case, we normally go for a week-long contest, but you have until Tuesday afternoon, and then I have to get the message over to Jason. So you have until the 14th, guys. So get on messaging me. Beyond that, I had one more question that I thought would be a really nice way to close out the show before we thank everybody. Let's see. At one point, you talked about, like, let me see here if I can find it. You mentioned like being able to shine on stage, right? And, like having that connection, being able to do that. What performance memory of yours where you just like felt that you nailed it, everything went right? Just one of your best performance stories.
Best performance story was the first theater show I ever did a few years ago. There is some aspects of let me rephrase that. The first solo theater show that I did. And you can see aspects of that show on one of my demos on the jasonpalter.com site. It was a very large theater, incredible crowd. It's one of those things, and you performers can relate to this, where it doesn't matter what you did on stage. They're literally, you stop talking and you can feel everyone go and lean forward on their seat because they're waiting to hear what you're going to say next. It was like it sounds so overused, but it's like I could have died at that moment and said, you know what, I've lived. It was just such, I mean, standing ovation. I mean, it was incredible, and it was just such a perfect show. And I'd worked so hard on designing this. It was part of a fundraiser. The show actually went long. It was supposed to go whatever. Let's say it's supposed to go an hour and a half with an intermission, and it went like an extra 20 minutes long, just because I was improvising. I was playing with the audience. I was doing this stuff. And the people who I knew who had attended the show, even sort of associates, had said to me, I cannot believe how fast that show went by. It's just like you were just there, connected. And it wasn't just me. I truly believe in thanking your audience. It's so important, to make sure. Buddy Hackett did a wonderful, old-time comedian Buddy Hackett, one of my favorites. I remember once seeing him. At the end of his show, he said something, I'm paraphrasing here, and I say something similar to my audiences that are really good. He said, you guys have been so great. If you treat every live performer the way you've just treated me tonight, you will never see a bad show in your life. And I thought, that's such a great thing to let the audience know that they've got a job to do and they're helping you do your job. At least, especially if you're an interactive performer like myself, where you need that reaction. That was probably, as an overall highlight, the best. It was an absolute career highlight. And again, I was glowing. I was so high I couldn't sleep that night. It was amazing. So I have moments, I could tell you funny stories of moments where there were highlights or moments where, oh my God, I can't believe that happened, like those bad things. But as an overall thing, for sure an absolute, that was my highlight, that live show.
That's awesome, man. I performing after I get done, it doesn't matter if it's like all gone great, but that feeling afterwards, especially when you can get to that last trick and get to that final great applause and just end and just let it sink in, it's just such a nice feeling to have. So I hope that never goes away.
It's true. I had an assistant working with me, another magician who's younger than me. He was phenomenal. I had a friend of mine as my technical director. She just was, and that's what she does. She just did an incredible job. It's just such a good team. And also, it's so important, when you're doing an event and you have a really good crew that you're working with. You show up at the event and they've already got sound people in place or whatever, the people who are running the lights, even if it's just at a banquet hall. When they're good, they make you look good. They make you sound good. I mean, be nice to these people. That's the other thing I say too. Do not forget to be nice to the people who are there just putting your microphone on. They're making you look and sound good. And they've got horrible stories that they'll tell you of actors and performers and speakers they've worked with who treat them like crap. You get on set or you get on the show and, it's so-and-so actor is in or so-and-so speaker, you're not allowed to look at them. What, are you serious? It's just, that's what it is. So I treat these people well. They make you look and sound good.
Well, you can't take yourself too seriously. You find people that do are just, to put it not so colorfully like I'd like to, just bad people. In general, they treat everybody like that, and it's just not okay. But yeah, absolutely, you have to appreciate everybody, and you have to appreciate, especially your audience. You have to be able to think. And speaking of thanking our audience, I want to thank our audience for showing up today.
Thanks, guys, for the questions. They were awesome.
I would love to thank you. Again, you've spent a lot of time with us today, and this has been just laugh after laugh. You're a hilarious entertainer, and I'm so glad that we got to do this together.
Thanks, man.
I'd like to thank Laura for setting this up for us, because this has been a total blasty blast, and she works really hard to make these things work. So thank you, Laura. And beyond that, I think we've done really well. I'll let you know as soon as we get a winner over on the turn, and thank you guys very much. That concludes our broadcast.
Thanks, man. And you've listed my websites. If anyone has any questions or whatever, if they just need to, they can email me or call me. Okay, cool, good, that's good. Yep. So
absolutely.
Anyone can.
I've already put them on the chat. So
awesome.
Thank you very much, Jason.
My pleasure, man. Thanks so much for having me.
All right.
Have a good day.
You too.